Like with anything, sometimes my paintings are hits and sometimes they're misses. And over the past couple of months, I have successfully identified 3 really common mistakes that have ruined my art in the past, and I've brainstormed some really effective solutions. So in this video, I want to help you learn from my mistakes. And I also want to say thank you to Milanote for sponsoring this video, but more on them later. So the first thing that has consistently ruined my art, the first really big mistake, is actually not being in the right mindset or being just like in a headspace that isn't conducive to creating. I have learned this time and time again the hard way over the past couple of months. I've had a lot of personal drama happen over the past couple of months, like things just like hitting me over and over and over again. Like I'm experiencing all of the plot twists that you would find like a telenovela, for example, and I'm joking about it, but a lot of the situations were like very serious, like very life and death kind of stuff that was really challenging to go through. And oftentimes that news would really throw me off of my game and just leave me feeling really adrift, really emotional, really just like unsure of my place in the world and what next steps are. And obviously it was just a lot of feelings were happening. It was just a lot of feelings. And when you're in that kind of position, it leaves you distracted and feeling like you're not quite in the right headspace to create. And there were a couple times where I tried to push through that feeling and create anyway. And I often felt like that was a mistake after the fact. Like in the moment, I craved the escapism and like the deep flow state that painting and like really getting in the groove provides me. But whenever I would try and paint something, whenever I would try and start a new project or continue a painting like the one that you're seeing right now, I would just make really bad choices. I would just make consistently really bad creative decisions that took me 3 steps back rather than 1 step forward in the creative process. And that act of like trying to push through that feeling is really what ruined the first iteration of this painting. And there's a really big difference between procrastinating because you don't feel inspired to keep working on something, and then just like genuinely not being in the right headspace, being too emotional, being distracted, not being in a position overall where you are able to give that painting your full attention. And I think for me at least, painting really requires like my full attention, especially in the beginning. The beginning of a painting is such a vital, important part. If you make a couple of mistakes in the beginning, it can take you a long time to fix those toward the middle and end of that process. Having a good head on your shoulders and being really attentive, really focused, and having a very clear plan in the beginning of a painting sets you up for success. And I didn't do that in this first stage. So if you find yourself really frustrated, really making bad choices when creating, just put the brush down, take a step back, reassess, like cover up the painting if you have to, maybe stare at it for a little while if you feel like you're in a position to be able to do that, and then think about what you want to achieve next session. But generally, the way that I solve this problem of being distracted, inattentive, really too in my head to be able to make good choices is to do something else. Like go for a walk, go to the farmer's market, bake some bread, take a nap, read a book, do literally anything else that is not painting. That will help you recharge, rest, relax, deal with your emotions in a healthy way, and then come back to things later. And that advice is really obvious. Like, of course it is. Like, just take a break. Oh my God, I never thought of that. Wow, thank you, Kelsey. But genuinely, it can be hard to make that choice when you're in the moment. I know that when I took a break from this piece and when I took a few weeks off of work, I felt really guilty. I felt like I should have been working. Like, I am just sitting here waiting for news and like I'm just reading this book, I'm just baking bread. Like, why am I not being productive? Why am I not making stuff? Why am I like just sitting here being sad? And it's like, it's necessary time. Sometimes the most productive thing that you can do is to not be productive. Like, you need that time to rest and relax. And it's really important to give that to yourself and to take care of yourself. Consistently being in the wrong headspace has ruined so many paintings for me, and the second mistake has ruined even more, and that is to not have a plan. So after I ruined the first iteration of this painting, I had to kind of go back to the drawing board. I knew that I wanted to turn this reference photo that I took in Alaska into a painting. I actually have a couple of different reference photos for this piece taken at different seasons, different times of the year, and from different angles. So I had a lot to work with in terms of reference material, and I'd also found some photos of this same waterfall on Google. But there was so much information in those photos. Like, there were so many different directions that I could take that piece, and a part of what had led me astray the first time was that I didn't really have a plan or a direction, that I just had the reference photo, and that wasn't really enough. And there were a lot of questions that I had to have answered to be able to proceed with confidence in this painting. So a part of that next step was really deconstructing the idea of this painting, like the waterfall painting as like a premise, as like a thing. So I looked up some other waterfall paintings that I really enjoyed, some other reference, there's some other waterfalls to figure out how to do that rocky area that had kind of eluded me the first go around, and to figure out what made those other paintings that I really liked work and how to apply those lessons to this particular project. And that's where the sponsor of this video comes in, Milanote. Milanote is really the ultimate brainstorming tool for creators. They have this drag and drop interface that makes it really easy to use. You can arrange images, audio and video files, links, written notes, and to-do lists. And you can even sketch directly on your like visual board in Milanote. And you can drag arrows and shapes around, and just generally it's a really valuable tool. And their browser extension, the Milanote Web Clipper, allows you to save images from almost anywhere on the web directly to your Milanote boards. And because your boards are saved to the cloud, you can access them from anywhere. And whether you're designing a logo or a product, planning a podcast, writing a novel, or salvaging a painting like I am, Milanote has hundreds of templates that are perfect for you. And the best part is that you can try Milanote for free. Check out the link in the description to learn more. But with all of that inspiration in front of me at all times, thanks to Milanote, I finally felt like this painting was back on track. And that brings me to the third mistake that keeps wrecking my paintings: overworking. Overworking is a really hard problem to solve because it's really personal. When I do record my painting processes like this, I'm usually able to figure out in hindsight what the point of no return was. Like, okay, like the 9-minute and 37-second mark of this video, like, that's the point where I made all of these mistakes and I just couldn't turn back and I kept overworking the piece to death. And it's much harder to figure out when to stop overworking and when you are even overworking in the first place, when you are kind of in the middle of that experience, especially when a painting isn't going your way. Because it isn't clear in that moment whether you are digging through this tunnel to the other side, like to the light at the end of the tunnel, or whether you're just surrounded by darkness because you're digging yourself into a really deep hole. I hope that made sense, that analogy. What I like to do to try and solve this problem is, as soon as I reach a point where I could even think about calling a painting done, I put down my brush and I stand back and I just look at it. And if there's anything else that I want to change, I have to kind of like really convince myself that it's worth it. Going back and forth with yourself and really trying to figure out, are these changes worth it, or am I just changing things to change things? And like, should I just put the brush down and call this done? Because calling it done is kind of scary. It's a little bit freeing, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. And if a painting is not quite what you really wanted it to be, call that one done. Stop changing it, but use that painting as a reference for an even better painting, like how I did in this exercise. I kept that original panel and I used that as kind of a reference for how not to do the next one. If you are interested in watching more videos just like this one, click somewhere on the screen right now and I will see you there. Bye guys.